Imagine boarding a flight minding your own business and halfway through the crew suddenly announces you've been randomly selected for a haircut. Right there, in front of everyone. You laugh nervously thinking it's a joke until they actually shave your head. The whole plane laughs, cameras rolling and the video goes viral. But what they didn't know? The man they humiliated was a multi-millionaire CEO, and within days, that entire airline was shut down. It started as a regular flight from Dallas to New York, the kind of day where the airport buzzed with energy. People hurried through security, juggling coffee cups and carry-ons. Flight attendants made announcements over the intercom, and travelers checked their watches impatiently. Amid the chaos stood Marcus Thompson, calm and composed, exuding the quiet confidence of a man who'd built his own empire from the ground up. Marcus was in his late 40s, dressed in a crisp gray suit that fit him perfectly. His shoes were polished, his posture straight, and his smile polite yet reserved. To anyone watching, he looked like a typical business traveler, but he wasn't. Marcus was the CEO and founder of a multi-million-dollar tech company, a man who had turned late nights and failed prototypes into one of the fastest-growing firms in the country. Despite his success, Marcus remained humble. He treated everyone, from interns to investors, with respect. That morning, he'd decided to skip his usual private jet. "I need to stay grounded," he'd told his assistant with a chuckle. "It's easy to lose touch with the world when you're always above it." He meant it. Marcus believed in understanding people, in seeing life from every angle. But this time, that decision would come with a heavy price. As Marcus approached the check-in counter, he was greeted by two young airline staff members. Their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes. One of them exchanged a quick glance with the other, suppressing a laugh. "Good morning, sir," one said in an overly cheerful tone. "Heading to New York today?" "Yes," Marcus replied politely, handing over his ID and ticket. He noticed the whispers, the sideways glances, the smirk one of them tried to hide. It wasn't new to him. He'd dealt with this subtle kind of prejudice his entire life. People judged before knowing, assumed before asking. He brushed it off, collected his boarding pass, and walked away with quiet dignity. But deep down, he felt that something about this encounter wasn't right. The energy was different, uncomfortable. He didn't know it yet, but this flight would soon become the defining moment of his life, and the downfall of an entire airline, because what began as a regular flight was about to spiral into an act of public humiliation so shocking, it would leave the world in disbelief. Halfway through the flight, just as the seatbelt sign turned off and passengers began settling in with their drinks, a cheerful flight attendant appeared beside Marcus's seat, her smile unusually bright. "Sir," she said with exaggerated enthusiasm, "you've been randomly selected for our first-class grooming experience. Complimentary haircut and refreshment on us." Her announcement drew laughter from nearby passengers. Some clapped, others pulled out their phones to record what they thought was a light-hearted mid-flight promotion. Marcus blinked, confused. "A haircut? On a plane?" he asked, raising an eyebrow with a polite smile. Before he could process what was happening, two male attendants appeared from the galley carrying a portable grooming kit. Clippers, scissors, a towel, even shaving foam. The sight alone made the passengers chuckle louder. "Come on, sir," one of the attendants said teasingly. "You'll look even sharper when we're done. It's just a little fun." Marcus hesitated. The cabin was watching him, people leaning over their seats, whispering, grinning. He didn't want to make a scene. "All right," he said finally, forcing a small, uncertain smile. "Just a little trim, then." But what happened next wasn't a trim. It was humiliation. The first buzz of the clippers echoed through the quiet cabin. Marcus expected a light touch around the sides, but instead the attendant deliberately dragged the clippers straight down the middle of his head, carving a bald strip across his neatly styled hair. The sound stopped. So did every conversation in the cabin. A few passengers gasped audibly, others stared in shock, and then came the nervous laughter, the kind that fills silence when people don't know what to do. Marcus froze. For a second, he couldn't move. Then he stood up abruptly, his heart pounding, his hands trembling with disbelief. "What the hell are you doing?" he shouted, voice echoing through the cabin. The flight attendant chuckled, stepping back. "Relax, man. It's just a joke," he said dismissively. But Marcus wasn't laughing, his face flushed with anger and shame. He demanded to see the captain immediately, but another crew member intervened coldly, saying, "Sir, calm down or we'll have to restrain you." That's when phones came out. Passengers began filming, whispering things like, "This isn't right." And did they really just do that? By the time the plane touched down, the internet had already exploded. The video, of a respected man being publicly humiliated at 30,000 feet, had gone viral before Marcus even left his seat. When the plane finally touched down in New York, Marcus didn't say a single word. He stood quietly, waiting for the doors to open while every pair of eyes in the cabin followed him. The flight attendants avoided eye contact, but one of them smirked as he walked past, as if proud of the joke they'd pulled. They thought they had embarrassed a random businessman, just another passenger they'd never see again. But the joke, and the entire joke, was on them. Marcus's calm exterior hid a storm inside. As soon as he exited the terminal, he called his assistant. His voice was steady but cold. "Get the legal team ready," he said. "We're not letting this slide." Within minutes, his team of attorneys was gathering evidence, downloading videos, and contacting witnesses who had recorded the incident. His PR manager immediately began drafting a statement, one that would shake the airline industry. By the time Marcus reached his office, the video had already exploded online. Passengers had uploaded it to every platform imaginable: TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Within hours, it had been viewed millions of times. The hashtags, "Justice for Marcus" and "Nar Airline Racism" trended globally. Major news outlets like CNN, NBC, and BBC picked up the headline, "Airline staff humiliate black CEO mid-flight, call it a joke." The public outrage was immediate and fierce. Celebrities spoke out, lawyers offered to represent Marcus for free, and activists flooded the airline's social media pages demanding justice. Comment sections filled with anger, disbelief, and calls for accountability. Inside the airline's corporate headquarters, panic spread like wildfire. Executives scrambled to figure out what had happened, who the passenger was, who the employees were, and how to do damage control. It wasn't until a senior manager saw Marcus's name trending online that they realized the magnitude of their mistake. Marcus Thompson wasn't just a random customer. He was one of the country's most respected black CEOs, a man featured on Forbes' top 100 entrepreneurs list. His company didn't just lead in technology. It specialized in cybersecurity systems used by major corporations, including banks, government agencies, and ironically, the same airline that had humiliated him. That's when it hit them. They hadn't just insulted a man. They'd insulted their own most valuable business partner, and Marcus was about to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. The next morning, chaos erupted inside the airline's headquarters. The CEO was woken by a phone call from the board of directors, voices tense, urgent, panicked. Overnight, what they thought was an isolated incident had spiraled into a full-blown corporate disaster. The government had officially launched an investigation into workplace discrimination, passenger abuse, and racial misconduct. The company's servers were being audited, their legal department overwhelmed with subpoenas and press inquiries. But that wasn't the worst of it. Just before dawn, Marcus's company, the one responsible for managing the airline's cybersecurity systems, had terminated all contracts, effective immediately. The message was short and professional, but the impact was devastating. The airline's entire digital infrastructure was suddenly left vulnerable. Every system, from bookings to communication servers, was thrown into chaos. By 9 a.m., major sponsors began pulling out. Corporate partners withdrew their advertising campaigns. Travel agencies stopped promoting their flights. It was as if the entire world had turned its back overnight. Meanwhile, social media burned like wildfire. The video of Marcus sitting frozen in his seat while a flight attendant shaved his hair had become a symbol of systemic racism and corporate arrogance. Influencers shared it with messages like, "This is what happens when dignity means nothing to a corporation." Civil rights groups organized online boycotts. Within 48 hours, the airline's name was synonymous with humiliation and hate. Customers flooded the company's customer service lines demanding refunds and cancellations. Within a week, ticket sales dropped by more than 60%. Desperate to control the damage, the airline's CEO released a statement. "We deeply regret the incident and are taking steps to retrain our staff." But the public wasn't buying it. The apology felt hollow, too polished, too late. When reporters finally caught up with Marcus, it wasn't the angry, vengeful man they expected to see. Instead, they found a calm, composed leader who carried himself with quiet authority. His presence alone silenced the crowd of journalists. Cameras flashed, microphones crowded in, and the world waited to hear what this man, humiliated in front of millions, would say. Marcus looked straight into the cameras, his expression steady, his voice firm but gentle. "This was never about me losing my hair," he began. "It's about dignity, about how easily people think they can laugh at someone who looks different. I don't want revenge, I want change." Those words struck a chord around the world. The short clip of his statement spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was trending on every platform, not as a moment of outrage, but as one of grace, power, and leadership. People admired how he turned pain into purpose. News anchors called it one of the most powerful responses to discrimination ever seen. In the following weeks, something remarkable happened. Major airlines began announcing new diversity and inclusion training programs. Airports launched internal reviews of staff behavior, ensuring no passenger would ever face humiliation like Marcus did again. The U.S. Department of Transportation even introduced new passenger rights guidelines inspired by the incident. Marcus became more than a CEO. He became a symbol of strength and reform. Talk shows invited him for interviews, universities requested him for guest lectures, and business magazines praised his composure and integrity. But Marcus didn't use his newfound fame for attention. He used it to uplift others. A few months later, he announced something extraordinary: a $2 million donation to create the Fly Higher Initiative, a scholarship program for young Black students pursuing careers in aviation, technology, and business. "If they won't open the doors," he said during the announcement, "we'll build new ones." His team was deeply moved. When one of his employees asked how he managed to stay so composed after everything, Marcus smiled and replied, "They tried to take my pride, but they gave me a platform instead." By the end of that year, his company's value tripled, becoming one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the nation. But more importantly, the world remembered his name, Marcus Thompson, the man who turned public humiliation into a movement for justice, dignity, and hope. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more powerful and inspiring stories. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.